We'll call the Plan Commission meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on amendment to Municipal Code Chapter 255, zoning Section 255-48 Sub H and Section 255-57 Sub E to reduce the number of required parking stalls per multifamily unit and to allow for parking in the front setback, and to recommend the Common Council set a public hearing date.
Yes, thank you. This item comes after a number of inquiries. We've had a lot of developers approach us and find out what our parking standards are in multifamily, and it's currently 3 per unit, one of which must be covered. That is well in excess of any other community that we researched. I have a handout that shows some of our peers of like size. And generally, the thought is somewhere between 1.5 and 2. Staff's recommendation would be to go to 2, one of which must be covered. The other piece that's extremely burdensome is we don't allow parking in the building setback. So in a multifamily structure, you can't have any parking in the front building setback. And again, extremely burdensome to overcome on any project unless you had, large swaths of property. So recommending that the Plan Commission requests that the Common Council set a public hearing date for, was it August?
August 20th.
August 20th.
I have a question for you on that then. The city, when we have a snow event, 3 inches, requires all off-street parking.
Yep.
Otherwise you get ticketed, okay? So I have a bunch of apartments around my house that don't have off-street parking to begin with. They're old, so
Sure.
I don't know if they're grandfathered or what, but
Yep.
then these people have no place to park.
Sure.
And so they're scrambling, so when you say reduce it, to me, that scares me sideways because our own city ordinance says get off the street during certain times.
Single family only provides that we have to have 2 in a single family home.
I was gonna ask if you know the genesis
Yep.
of the 3.
Yep, I don't know why it was 3. All I can say is that it is certainly an outlier when you compare it to other communities that are
This
similar.
applies to all the new construction?
All the new construction, yep. Obviously, the existing rental properties would be effectively grandfathered.
Right.
Yep.
So that was my, sorry, you're done.
No, I'm done, go ahead.
So that was my question. So all of the current facilities would be all grandfathered into this?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be able to go back to them and say, hey, let's add a couple parking stalls, get you to 2. Yeah, so, yeah.
But they could take advantage of the rear yard setback change?
Front yard setback. Yep, they could. In that theory, we could create more parking
Yeah.
in the building setback, whereas right now it wouldn't be provided for.
Correct. Okay.
Another phenomenon that's happening a lot, and my own kids have made me aware of this, is that on rentals today, a lot of times it's not, it's a single place rental.
Yep.
But 2 people rent it. They do that to share rent, drop costs for each other and do things like that. She's nodding. It just happens. And so, are we okay knowing that, there's some trends going on like that could cause more population than we think?
Sure, and I think you gotta look at it on average too. I mean, family of 4, my family of 4, we have 2 vehicles. The average apartment, say it's 1 or 2 bedrooms, how many vehicles will that apartment generate? That'll be parked there. Probably 2.
I'm seeing up,
Maybe 1,
I'm
if it's a
seeing
1 bedroom.
I'm seeing up to 3.
Okay.
Well, and I don't want to sound repetitive and keep beating this drum, but the whole nature of vehicles and ownership is changing dramatically. Young people aren't driving as much as they used to. They're not even getting their licenses anymore. And you got Lyft and Uber that are coming in, and autonomous cars coming. So I think that's the future.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure that we're not making a mess.
And I don't believe we are. Again, you know, every developer that approaches me on a multifamily project looks at that and they say that is way more than anything we've ever seen. And then we've quantified that, verified that by doing research with communities of similar size in our area.
I'll make a motion to proceed with this as you want to do, proceed.
I'll second it.
So that's a public hearing is what you're making a motion for.
Bring it to public hearing, that is correct.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on amendment to Municipal Code, Chapter 255, zoning to include developing manufacturing, technology, and research-based businesses, and to recommend the Common Council set a public hearing date.
Again, this one recommending us setting a public hearing date for August 20th. And again, we have been approached a few times about, you know, what can we do in terms of a high-tech space in a business district. Most communities obviously have some sort of provision to foster high-tech medical manufacturing, research and development, and we don't allow that in anywhere other than an industrial district. So doing it this way would allow for that to take place in a B2 general business district and would be ensured that it's of appropriate scale and intensity through the condition or the certificate of compliance process.
Oh, sorry, Mary Claire.
How are you defining, this topic has come up before when we've talked about the breweries or Hop and Barrel. Remember, we had that conversation about delivery and trucks and increased congestion. I mean, we all know that Second Street already gets congested if you're trying to turn left to go into the Williams lot and so forth. So how are we defining manufacturing in the city?
As defined here, I mean, it's just that we have a use table in the back of our zoning code that says, okay, manufacturing, well, that's such a, you have to make an interpretation. What we're trying to do is be more concise to provide a way to allow for this in a B2 district exclusively. And B2 obviously wouldn't happen downtown. That's all going to be B3 or B4.
Didn't we extend B2 a little bit to B2, that new building, Andy's new building? What is that?
No, that's B4.
That's B4. I mean, when I read this, I just had a moment of concern, just based on, you know, the comprehensive plan and the downtown vision plan and the waterfront vision plan and kind of all these plans of what we're trying to have, what the city of Hudson looks like. But obviously wanting to encourage growth in business, I totally get that, but in the right places.
Yep. And that's, again, why we tried to make it as specific as possible in being high-tech, medical-related, FDA-regulated, or other high-tech commercial markets and associated equipment to support that manufacturing. And then, obviously, not wanting to make widgets, you know, big,
Right.
you know, we don't want somebody making, I don't, name the item.
Right.
That's, you know, a large scale, and we don't want an industrial use occurring in a business district, right?
Right.
Wouldn't this be more or less described as the incubator stage of any type of company? They're trying to come up
It
with a
could be,
product and do
yeah.
all that.
And that's
If it were ever to go to something, they'd have to get out of there because they wouldn't have enough room.
And that's what you're seeing in a lot of these research-based, even campuses, small and large, right? You have the research and development, the corporate piece, and you have the manufacturing of said item right in one spot.
We want it.
Be less traffic than another bar or a restaurant. If it-
Well, it wouldn't be downtown, so, yeah.
But I mean, I don't see it being an adverse.
Oh, we want it.
Yeah. it'd be-
So, and just what's the checkpoints then? Do you know what I'm saying?
If this were to be approved, obviously, this would come back to Plan Commission for,
For their approval for their project,
yep.
right?
We could forward a recommendation now to move forward with it too, and that's fine, but, in addition to that, we would set a public hearing date of August 20th.
I mean, I'd make a motion to set the public hearing date and so forth, but just as long as we have the checks and balances moving forward to ensure that they're meeting the criteria.
Absolutely. And then on each of these, we have to approve that via a certificate of compliance, which would come back to Plan Commission and Council.
Okay.
If at all possible, I'd recommend that we move forward with both setting the public hearing date and a recommendation to move forward with the ordinance.
So moved.
Got a motion?
And a second?
I thought she had a motion.
Oh,
Mary made the first motion.
Oh, okay.
But you have to add the second part.
I'll accept the friendly amendment of adding the second part of the approval of the proposed municipal code update and a public hearing date of August 20th be forwarded to the common council.
okay.
Pat.
We've got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on recommending the common council set a public hearing date for a zoning map amendment from AR agricultural residential to R1 one family residential at St. Croix County tax parcel 040-1026-30-0000 Land Devco of Hudson LLC.
The common council approved the annexation ordinance last night for what is referenced as the Lee property, south of Mayor Road, west of the dog track redevelopment project. This is broken out into three separate items. The first is obviously specific to the westerly half, more or less, of that annexation property that's in the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway area. The rezoning request is to go from AR agricultural residential, which is what the temporary zoning was set at for the property to come in as, to go to R1, one family residential. And they're petitioning, so they're recommending that you set a public hearing date. Or request that the council set a public hearing date.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Looks like we have,
Can we have somebody here that would like to comment on this?
Well, I just have a
Name,
quote.
identify yourself and where you live, please.
David Bodette, 6400 Lookout Trail North, Oak Park Heights, Minnesota. So this parcel is in the overlay Wild and Scenic River District, as I understand.
correct.
Is this the same zoning then? Essentially will end up being the same zoning that it's currently listed in the township then? Or before it was annexed into the city?
It comes in as the same as it was, the closest to the town's zoning district, which was agriculture reserve. So it came in, this group set a temporary zoning of agricultural reserve. Okay, that was our closest zoning district to that. The fact that it's in the Riverway, or that doesn't change. It stays and is regulated by the same criteria as it was at the establishment of the Riverway ordinance in early 2000s.
Or 1976, which,
NR 118.
NR 118, yep.
so that the property cannot have any more density or development than what it was when the Riverway was created in 1976. So you can't
What-
upzone the property. You can't zone it to more density than the property had when it was in the township.
NR 118 provides for a process in which a developer or owner can petition for rezoning to R1, and then they apply for, they have to meet the density requirements that are defined in the state's code, the administrative code. And then if they want to provide for, or if they want to apply for a conditional use permit for a cluster, they can do that too. But whether or not that gets approved is obviously subject to the approval of Plan Commission and Council.
And not in NR 118, or if the DNR objects to the
We have to provide
upzoning?
30 days in written notice to DNR to say this is what the application is, and then DNR provides comment on that application.
Are you going to do that at this time, or are you going to wait for the application?
You would need an actual public hearing date to be able to provide them notice of a public hearing. So if the council were to set a public hearing date of, what was it, September 4th, at that point, we would send notice to DNR, to the Regional Planning Commission, and to the county that we have an application for rezoning. They have a 30-day comment period, and then they provide their comments at that time.
And if the zoning is at a higher density, you feel there's a procedure in NR 118 that would allow you to put any type of zoning on there?
Not any type of zoning.
But a greater density than what was established when it was in the township, when it was made part of the Wild and Scenic River, just to clarify, since this property is in the overlay district.
It would be following the state's code. Whatever process the state's code provides for is what we have to follow. We've adopted NR 118 whole cloth. All of it is specific. We have to abide by, that's the law. So we have to abide by that. So is there a procedure in which they could potentially apply for a CUP to allow for a higher, not a higher density than what is proposed? There's an avenue there's an avenue that somebody can apply for a cluster, a cluster residential, which would allow them to have, 50%, as long as they preserve the river view. Obviously, you can't see the river from that property, but there's criteria that they'd have to meet, and at that point, we'll do that review, but they're petitioning at this time, so all we're doing is requesting that the Common Council set a public hearing date.
Okay. And the same question would be for, I know it's not on your agenda, Mr. Chair, but that's the same, the 13.5 acre parcel has the same issue? That's also in the Wild and Scenic Overlay District?
No.
No, it's not.
It is according to the Town of Troy's Wild and Scenic Overlay. Certainly the 5.54 acre parcel is not. That's adjacent to, or much closer to County Road F.
It would have to follow that 40 line, which would be in the Riverway.
Yeah, so the 13.5 is in the Riverway. I mean, it's not a very good map, so it's not, it would have been nice to have a parcel map that delineated all three parcels together, showing not your city overlay zoning, but at least the Riverway and the applicable other zoning.
The 21.1 acres is in the Riverway, that entire piece that they're requesting to go to R1.
And the 13.57 is not.
Assuming that follows that parcel line, which we believe it does, the existing 40 line.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Doug Rowan, 295 Riverview Drive. I live on the map you're looking at. And the first comment I want to make is the characterization that was given to you in Exhibit A is fundamentally flawed, because they describe the property to the west of what's been annexed and to the south of what's been annexed incorrectly. To the west, especially in the Riverway portion, to the west and all of what's to the south is all rural residential today and has been for many, many years. It's not 1 and 2 family homes, which is the way they characterized it in their Exhibit A map. So I think they were trying to show some compatibility between what they were trying to do and what the existing classification was of the surrounding neighbor area. But everything to the west, to the river, is and will remain rural residential based on NR 118. And everything to the south is also classified as rural residential based on NR 118. So I think the map mischaracterizes the neighborhood, I guess is my main comment. We'll bring that back when you have the public hearing. And Mike, I don't know if you want to give some feedback to the developers to say maybe they want to correct that before they bring it forward, or they can contact us if they want to, but it mischaracterizes the neighborhood, I think, to show more compatibility with what they want to do than what actually exists.
Are you talking about the legal description specifically, or are you talking
I'm talking about the classification, so they have everything classified as 1 and 2 family properties,
Okay,
all that yellow stuff, let's say.
okay.
So all the yellow stuff that's not in the annex portion and the blue stuff,
You want that to reference?
all the yellow stuff and the blue stuff is rural residential. It's not 1 and 2 family classified anywhere in the town of Troy or in the state ordinances. And so they're misclassifying, and I don't know what they're doing on the Hudson side. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but for sure on the town of Troy side, they're mischaracterizing the neighborhood
Oh,
in what I consider a significant way.
what that is it looks like they took out a snippet from our comprehensive plan, the City of Hudson's comprehensive plan,
Well,
the future land use map.
okay, so I'm just saying that significantly mischaracterizes what's there and what will be there in the future if people are using that map for decision-making purposes.
Okay,
Unless you're considering converting my property to a 2-family home, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
no,
So I think it's a mischaracterization of what the neighborhood looks like to show more compatibility than would actually exist with the development plans. And we'll bring that back in the public hearing if it doesn't change at all. I just
so
want
that
to-
would, it would make sense for them to outline that, the specific property in question in that cut out effectively is what you're looking for.
Yeah, which is 50% of the border of the Riverway part of the property they're talking about. So it's
Understood.
not insignificant.
But I then find the request flawed, because if it's not described accurately, the request is flawed, and so we have to get it corrected. Otherwise, if we were to approve something, we're approve something that's, we know has a flaw to it.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to have a public hearing, by the way. I think that's
Well,
great.
I'm not, that would happen anyway, but I guess we would look foolish, I feel, if we were to approve this without a corrected.
If
Or
it
am I
got to
wrong
that,
in
well,
wrong saying that?
I would say the legal description is the most important piece, is that legal description.
Not from the people who live there.
But again, from an applications perspective, right? If you're defining a property in text, right? Does it make sense for them to highlight the specific
But
property
in their application, they
outside?
are characterizing the uses they want to do based on what they say is next to it. That's part of what they're asking for, or the way their application is describing it. And they're saying basically what we want to do is completely compatible with everything that's around it, and that's not true. Or else it's a clerical error.
I think you can make a motion if you wanted to approve the
The
public
applicants,
hearing, you could give us a better map.
and the application, and the applicants, do you want to speak to that?
I'd be happy to. My name is Nick Vivian. I'm the attorney who represents the developer on this particular application. As was indicated, we're simply asking the Plan Commission to set up a public hearing on our request, which is related to our property only. As Mr. Johnson indicated, the snippet that's included comes directly from your comprehensive plan, which is your future land use map, and so that's where that was taken. But with respect to the request itself, the request is simply as it relates to this property and not necessarily as to what's happening around the property. If the Plan Commission finds that particular graphic to be confusing, certainly we can pull that or modify that in our application. But the operative map is the map of our property and what we're seeking to have the council or the Plan Commission approve for public hearing and the public comment as we move forward. So certainly there's no intention to say that all of this property around, whether it be in the town, whether it be to the south, whether it be to the north, is completely compatible. We want the focus solely to be on the property that we're planning to acquire and develop. And I'm certainly happy to answer any other questions that the Plan Commission may have regarding the request.
Just provide a plat map, a certified map of that property instead of the comp plan before the public hearing to everybody who needs to take a look at it. Because ordinary people are not going to read the legal descriptions.
No, and I'm not saying they would.
They want to
sure.
see pictures, and let's get an accurate picture.
And certainly what you have in front of you, the map, The survey map it's not a plat map necessarily, but I mean, that's the map of the property. So if the Plan Commission prior to or the council or whomever prior to the public hearing would like to see a larger plat map with the adjacent properties with this particular property highlighted so that we can get a sense as to what that neighborhood looks like, we're certainly happy to provide that.
Did I miss the survey map?
No, I've seen others, so,
Oh, okay.
in particular, but there are more of a precise map for you, for everybody to look at.
Right, I think that would be helpful.
That's kind of what I was asking for, I guess, in my request.
Is your request to have that prior to moving this forward to common council for a public hearing?
Well, I think you should present correct information.
Well, they can provide it
Do that at the public
contingent.
hearing.
Well, then,
They
if
don't
we know
necessarily-
that and where
We
everybody's
know what the
okay.
legal description for the property itself is. That's not under question.
Okay, well then,
So we're having a public hearing of what to do with that footprint of ground, right?
Well, if the council sets a public hearing date.
Yeah.
All we're doing right now is saying, hey, council, set a public hearing date for,
And then all these issues will come to
Yeah.
the fore.
Oh,
And
sure.
if you
Give
want to
them
be
the
successful,
proper
you're going to
map.
have a
give them a
different
proper map.
set of images, I would bet.
Right, the one thing that I would add, though, is that the map that you have in front of you, not the future land use snippet, but the map that is the green, the blue, and the
This
pink,
one?
that accurately depicts, correct, that accurately depicts the legal description for this property. And what I understand to be requested is a plat map which shows the adjacent properties
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Which we can certainly provide. But you have on that map the legally drawn picture of that property based on the legal description.
Right, but it doesn't tell us the properties around that for
Correct.
help us to understand what the impact of changing this exactly would be.
Understood.
So I'll make the motion that we have.
Do you want to?
Did you want to?
That's okay, you can make the motion, we'll continue discussion.
I'll make a motion that we allow or set the public hearing to discuss it.
But can you, a friendly amendment to say with an accurate plotted map?
Well, if they come
Certified.
back with what they have, they would know that it isn't going to fly, right?
Just saying.
Right.
I think I would feel better as a group.
I would
Yeah, well, we're saying that
put a
to them.
condition on it, yeah, with a corrected map.
With a-
Yeah,
with
with
an
the
accurate,
corrected map.
with an accurate map.
With an accurate map that just
Showing the
shows the
neighboring
property and the neighborhood
Sure.
properties to it and what the underlying current land use zoning is for those properties, right?
Yes.
That's-
Is there a second?
So we have all the information on this parcel and the parcel next to it, and what its accurate, current utilization zoning is. Right? That's,
Yep, all right, we got a motion, a second.
Just a quick clarification. That map was not part of the packet. I printed the top one, so the latest revision, there was a revision 1 and a revision 2. I assume the revision 2 is the latest and greatest. That map is not included in the packet, so the public never got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Anybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on recommending the common council set a public hearing date for a zoning map amendment from AR agricultural residential to R2, two-family residential, and a comprehensive plan amendment from 1 and 2-family residential and general commercial to medium-density residential for a 13.57 acre ML portion of St. Croix County tax parcel 040-1025-70-000, Land Devco of Hudson LLC.
If you're reading all that, I'm going to request that we remove this specific item from.
You just read the whole thing.
He just thanked me for it too. Yeah, okay.
Before,
Just on that point, I think as we discussed, Mike, the change from AR to R2 would be pulled, but the balance with the change from 1 and 2-family residential to medium-density residential
okay.
is
yep.
what we discussed proceeding.
Thank you. Yep. So the first part obviously wouldn't be applicable, but the second part, so we're recommending that the common council set a hearing date for September 4th for the comprehensive plan amendment from 1 and 2 family residential and general commercial to medium density residential for the 13.57 acre, more or less, portion of St. Croix County tax parcel.
So you pulled C and we're going to D?
No, C was done. D, you're pulling off the zoning map amendment, but keeping the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay.
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 All right, everybody understand?
Yep.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Anything I need to know about E?
No, not yet.
Before you read it?
Discussion and possible action on recommending the common council set a public hearing date for zoning map amendment from AR agricultural residential to RM1 multifamily residential and a comprehensive plan amendment from general commercial to high-density residential for a 5.54 acre ML portion of St. Croix County tax parcel 040-1025-70-000 Land Devco of Hudson LLC.
Same thing, this one, though, is a little bit different. That's the far northeast 5.54, more or less, portion of property, basically at the corner of Carmichael and Mayor. Currently, the future land use designation for that is general commercial. The request is to go to RM1, which is multiple family residential. So requesting that the common council set a hearing date for September 4th as well. Wasn't that September 4th?
Okay, Mary Claire?
It would be really helpful to have that map that just shows exactly what we're talking about and where we're talking about it and what is around it. I mean, for us, and let's just be sure that, that's updated for the public to have their awareness so it's as current. But because I have to be honest, I don't know really where you're talking about right here.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't, Randy, I know.
But it does give you geographical location.
I get, yes. But,
We'll get new maps.
I mean, because you have always done fabulous maps in the past, which have been very helpful to me. So I guess I would just ensure that, because you always have provided that.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, thank you.
Thank you.
May I make a request on that map as well, that you have an overlay map that shows what's going to be going on across the street at the old dog track as well? Because all that traffic and all that is going to come into play with what's going to take place there as well.
Especially on the corner.
Yeah.
Especially on the
Make
corner.
us all a copy of that map there, will you?
That one, yeah.
No, but I think it would be really helpful
That size?
to looking at it.
Well, I think that really makes us smarter in what we're discussing and just having the full big picture. And we're not trying to make more work for you. That's not our goal.
No, it's fine.
But
They'll
I
they'll
just-
have to provide it. It's easier. I mean, they're going to have to do it, so.
Right,
yeah.
so,
Okay.
Well, I don't want to approve something I don't understand. I'm
Right.
going to say it that way.
and that the public hasn't had ample time to review
Yep,
and be aware.
yep.
Okay.
Are you lacking a motion?
Yes.
I'll make it.
All right, got a motion?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Excuse me, are we adding in the
Last
part
one.
about a map?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is what we did with Randy's motion.
I'll make a couple of them. I'll do our existing land uses, existing zoning, future land use maps.
And the overlay
We'll
that-
get the whole
That's what we
Riverway
did.
District overlay lines in there. We can do that.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on amendment to Municipal Code, Chapter 202, signs, Section 202-7, for the purpose of real estate signage and other temporary signage.
It's been so long, I forgot what we were doing.
No.
Apparently Bill's knows what he wants.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too long. I'm not going to request a map of all the real estate.
Name and
sign
address, please.
locations.
Who are you?
Bill Burnt. I live in River Falls, Wisconsin. I'm representing the Western Wisconsin Realtors Association, local realtors. And we're just asking for a bit of a pause on your discussion of this. I've talked with your staff. The area of the law nationwide is evolving on this, and we were hoping to weigh in a little bit. It's still a little bit conflicted. We want to get to a place where the city is protected and your real estate professionals can comply as easily as possible. So hopefully that you can put this off for a couple of months, and we'll work with the staff to bring it back in a form that we could all support.
Have you talked to your fellow realtors about it?
Well, I'm not a realtor.
That's
so
how it started.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And now you want us to wait again, because I brought this up, 5 months ago?
Yes, and I think part of this too, it's an enforcement question, is a lot of it. It really is. And since that time, have we had issues? Have we had comments?
Not with the real estate, but I think now we're starting to see the garage sales.
Yeah, and that's becoming, and again, it's an enforcement piece, and, you know, I think we've been making an effort, our department along with Public Works, to try and educate people, and when we do rip signs out and pull signs out because it is a hazard or because we can't maintain our boulevards, we at least communicate that with them. And obviously, if it becomes an issue where we have an abundance of signs, like happened, I would say 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, where we had to go in and take a number of them.
I don't want you guys going around pulling signs. I do want the ability of realtors to have their open house signs at a certain amount of time frame
Sure.
on any given day. That's why I wanted to keep the whole garage sale thing out of it, and now it's all in it.
Well, it's part of it.
What do you want to do?
I think it's-
I don't want anybody chasing after these signs unless it's abundantly in a public safety issue.
It's a common sense thing.
Right.
But we have to enforce the ordinance that we have too, but within reason.
But change it to allow certain things.
Yep.
That's the whole point of it.
And I think that's what they're working on as an association, as
Did
a
you say
membership group.
nationwide, Bill?
It's a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
So what do you need, 60 days? No, we're asking you, what do you need, 60 days?
I would assume that we could come up with something here locally that we could work through in 60 days, no problem.
Well, I'm just saying, because we've delayed this long, 60 days isn't gonna kill anything, so.
What do you mean?
Give us 60 days.
I'm working on this, man.
Commissioner Morissette has been working long and hard on this one.
Oh, stop it, this has been sitting in the closet
I
for
mean,
a long
Bill,
time.
I don't know if you received a copy of what we've got.
Yeah, I
Highlighted.
brought it, I downloaded it from.
Okay, so you do have some things to add and contribute?
Hopefully so,
Okay.
yeah.
Pat?
Your staff is good to work with.
I'll make a motion, we address this 60 days from now.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion second. Any further discussion?
I think the Home Builders Association, who's the other large
Yep.
professional group, if you will, that rely on seasonal directional signage for the spring and fall parade homes, gets to be a cluster of signage and everything else, that if we could involve them in the solution, or the realtors could involve them in the solutions, it would be the two big ones, and then the garage sale signs, that's a nuisance. separately. But these are as the professionals, they rely on it for their livelihoods and to build our homes and neighborhoods and everything else. So that's my only.
Yeah, we gotta please both.
Yeah.
If we can.
All right.
I agree.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
We should introduce Tiffany, our new
Tiffany, yeah.
associate planner.
Welcome.
Tiffany joins us straight out of grad school from Prescott, Ellsworth, down there, somewhere not Hudson, but close.
Okay. Down by Big River.
Really happy to have her on board. She comes in at a busy time, just like Emily did. But there's a lot of really, really positive things happening. So do you just want to introduce yourself? And
Yeah, so like you said, I just graduated from the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School of Public Affairs and with a Master of Urban Regional Planning. So this is exactly down the line as of what I wanted to do, especially as it pertains to city planning. You know, I didn't want to do anything too regional. I didn't want to be too broad. So this is exactly where I wanted to be. And it makes me feel happy that it's right close to home. I grew up in Ellsworth, so I feel like, I don't know, I know a little bit about your city, not as much as mine, but I'm willing to help as much as I can.
Great, well, welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
So live in Ellsworth then?
I'm not. I'm actually still in Twin Cities right now, looking to move closer.
Well, if you
to
do, you gotta bring cheese curds here.
I'd be more than happy to.
That's graft and corruption on ours.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yes,
Thank you.
nice to have you here.
All right, anybody else?
Can I ask Mike of the follow-up on the DOT with 11th Street Bridge? Nothing? I know you've
Oh,
been busy.
we did traffic counts, we did, had actually a conversation with Robert Helt. So we're moving that along. We're tentatively setting for that final presentation, we're gonna have DOT come in with, Glenn on the first meeting in August.
Okay.
So August 6th for council. And that's all those issues are gonna be all balled into one, and
Because we have a agenda item on the public safety meeting Thursday.
Which I'll be at.
It's a crossing.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Can I just, Emily, do you have the upcoming meeting dates?
It should be July 23rd, and then the Tuesday, and then I will send out an email to confirm August dates, probably this week, unless you want to just do them right now,
Nope, that's a
Nope.
fine
July
system, yep.
24th?
23rd.
whatever the Tuesday after.
No, 24th.
Oh, 24th, sorry, I had it off.
Aren't we doing interviews then? That doesn't matter. Morning.
I won't be here on the 24th.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything on that.
Oh, it's August.
We can all walk down to the Minnesota Orchestra concert in the beautiful lakefront park that's taking place right now.
Is that the 24th?
I don't remember.
I just sit in my front porch, Mary Claire. I don't even need to walk down.
I can sit on the ridge and hear it beautifully up the valley. It's just
I'll have it done
fabulous.
Okay.
I thought I put them both in.
I'll walk down then.
And then we'll look at August, but I would imagine August.
Does project as well as it does.
Well, if the wind's from
Yeah, westerly Riverdale.
It has to be that.
I won't either.
Well, we'll coordinate.
Okay.
Am I premature to say I make a motion to adjourn? Or
So
Oh,
moved.
we've been waiting.
So moved.
Normally you call me anxious.
All right, we got a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?